Hello. If you watched this morning's video, you'll have seen straight hair. I think I had a bit of makeup on or what have you. This is what happens throughout my day. I've got bits of straw everywhere. I can't even show you what my jeans look like, but suffice to say, they look like I've done 10 rounds with the horse version of Mike Tyson instead of just getting the mud off 3 of them. And it's absolutely hooning down, and we're forecast for 10 days of rain. Amazeballs. Brilliant. Thanks very much, because it's not like we had enough else on our plates. We've now got 10 days of rain. So I'm sat at the kitchen table. I've got my feet up on it. I've got the ironing that I've just done sat behind my laptop. I've got a bin liner there, and I'm just like, you know what? You can all just sod off. Had enough. I mean, honestly, Mother Nature just needs to give us a break, doesn't she? Because we're being fired at by everything and everyone. I mean, the BBC thing is kicking off massively. So we're now all blaming Donald Trump, and it's all Donald Trump's fault. We need him to not be involved in our media. And I'm like, hang on, have I missed the point here? So even Kirsty Allsop, who I normally love, is saying he shouldn't be involved in our media. And Ed Davey is saying this is what happens when Donald Trump gets involved in our media. I'm like, no. Donald Trump had a programme made about him that was edited in a way that made it look like he said something that he didn't. Now, that could have been Donald Trump, that could have been Keir Starmer, that could have been the King, that could have been me, that could have been... It doesn't matter who the person is. The person is going to get a bit pissed off. I mean, I'd be fucking livid. And yet here we are turning this into it's Donald Trump agenda. There you are. I mean, it's the perfect example of what's going wrong, isn't it? I mean, I can read you some of the stuff that's going on in X that talks about it. And everyone's got something to say. The White House is now telling us which news we should watch. So Donald Trump says the top people in the BBC, including Tim Davie, the boss, are quitting fired because they're all caught doctoring my very good perfect speech of January the 6th. Thank you to the Telegraph for exposing these corrupt journalists. They are very dishonest people who tried to step on the scales of a presidential election. On top of everything else, they are from a foreign country, one that may consider our number one ally. What a terrible thing for democracy. I don't think Donald Trump is telling anyone what we should watch. So Kirsty's saying the White House is now telling us which news we should watch. Well, he's not, is he? He's saying that the BBC doctored a Panorama TV show. Somebody else is saying all roads to the crisis at the BBC trace back to Boris Johnson. We've got quite a lot of people. Emily Thornberry defends the BBC. But Ed Davey has a massive go at, he's written a letter to anyone that will listen about Donald Trump. And I'm like, hang on, are we really missing the point here? Are we really, how? Donald Trump's not telling us what news to watch. I mean, I think it's a bit rich if we're talking about foreign news associations with fingers in other people's pies. I think that's a bit rich. But he's not telling it. He's just saying the BBC screwed up my interview and they made it look like I said something that I didn't. Well, who would not do that? Who would not complain about that? Who does not complain about that? I mean, there's a legal suit every other day with somebody saying, I didn't say that, that wasn't what it was, I'm taking you to court, you can't do this. And yet here we are blaming the blamer. And it's like, no. And Kirsty, I mean, it actually pains me to say this because genuinely I agree with 90% of what you say. Well, that I see that you say. But this is way off the mark. The BBC really did cock this up. Now, should this be the downfall of the BBC? Well, no. Because if it's the downfall of the BBC, it's got to be the downfall of every other news outlet out there. Should it be the rise in standards of the BBC? Absolutely. Should it be an acknowledgement of the bias in the BBC? 100%. But are we going to get rid of an institution that has been... I've got to be really careful with my words here. It's not what it used to be. Let's put it that way. So we've got lots of little teams, little media teams working together to skew and create something that they want. What we need to do is look at the charter, because as many of you have pointed out on the comment section in this, and as I'm in total agreement, if this were an independent corporation, we could have less of a say about it. We could still be rightly up in arms if somebody had been misquoted, if there was a real obvious bias, if there was a real obvious misedit, if there was really obvious areas of journalistic lack of integrity. But we pay a licence fee for this. So this is why people are pissed off, and that is rightly so, because we're invested in this in the same way that we're invested in the government. So we've got two massive organisations at the minute who are not reflecting the needs of the British people. And I think that's why people have kicked off. It's actually less about the Panorama. That was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. It's more about the fact that you're not listening. You think you, to quote Coldplay, are a higher power. So the government think, to quote Coldplay, they are a higher power. That is such a good song, by the way. But if you're trying to sing it in the car, when they do the key change, it's absolutely impossible to go along with them. And you have to go from chest voice to head voice, and it's never pretty. Well, in my case anyway. But they are all thinking they are the higher power, and they are forgetting who they effectively work for. Us. So I think what's happening, and this is this whole division thing, and somebody put a comment on here the other day about how I was dividing, and we need unity at this time, and my channel is a divisive channel. I'm like, are you having a laugh? How am I dividing people? How am I stoking up division? How? I mean, and I didn't go back to them because I thought, I can't be asked. That's just a stupid comment. If you can't put any more thought into it, I can't be bothered to put any more response into it. I am not dividing. If there was not something to comment on in the first place, I wouldn't be commenting on it. So you go backwards, don't you? You follow it to the root, and then the root is the cause. So the root of the dissatisfaction, in my perception, my optics are telling me that it's that we're paying for something that we don't feel we're getting the service we're paying for. In the same way that many people voted for something that they don't feel they're getting the manifesto of. Awkward. So we've got a government who we feel aren't delivering for the British people. And we have the British Broadcasting Corporation, who many people feel isn't delivering for the British people. And in this general climate of you're all taking the piss, people are fed up. And I get that. And I don't disagree with that. Now, I would be devastated if the BBC became no more, because it's a little bit, like the National Trust and John Lewis. There are some things that we really need to cling on to, particularly when everything else does seem to be going so tits up. Do I think the BBC should remain where it is as it is? No. But nor do I think the NHS should remain where it is as it is. Nor that I think John Lewis should remain where it is as it is, etc. I think we've all lost sight of our values, our core values. And it feels like people and things are becoming bigger than the product. So Keir Starmer is turning himself into the celebrity superpower version of being a prime minister. There's no humility. He's not humble. The same goes for Rachel Reeves, Bridget Phillipson, Torsten Bell. There's going to be a good video there. By the way, somebody said I should do a live. Now, we talked about this months ago. I'm really happy to do a live. I don't mind, but I don't know physically how to set it up. So answers in the comments below. I'll have a look at that, and perhaps we will do a live. But we've got the BBC is now being... And I don't even think it was the chairman. I don't even think it's the top bods, because this to me looks like something that's happening underneath in lots of the meetings, lots of the round tables, lots of the brainstorming sessions. That's where this is happening. And in the same way that, when your local supermarket stops selling something that was really popular, the most popular line, you're like, oh, what have you done that for, you idiot? That's the bit that everybody loved, and now they're going to go to the other one. Or why haven't you done that? It's, it's just not being in tune. It's not listening. And I feel like the BBC does have the opportunity here, unlike the government, who I don't think can turn it around. I think the BBC can turn it around. I think they have got the opportunity to get back to the values of the British Broadcasting Corporation. But it's going to take a lot more than just one person falling on their sword and a bit of an internal investigation. It needs to start at the bottom. Instead of top down, it needs to start at the bottom and work its way up. There are a lot of supremely talented people that work in all of our media outlets. There are lots of people that have trained, that are passionate, that are ethical, that are in it for the right reasons. We've got to separate the wheat from the chaff. And if it was to go back to talent, and the talent that you possess to work at the BBC or any of these organisations, or indeed Parliament, then that's what we're looking at. It's meritocracy, isn't it? It's, are you good for the job? Because if you are good for the job, then you have a place here. If you're not good for the job, you don't have a place here. I would never let a surgeon operate on me if they'd just seen a YouTube video on how to operate and had played the game operation and not made the nose go red. You see where we're going. So that's my rambly thoughts, and they are rambly thoughts today, but I think the cold has gone to my head, the wet has certainly gone to my head, and the ironing definitely did not clear it all out. But this is a societal thing for me. This is not just the BBC. This is the mirror reflecting against what's going on in the UK at the minute. And until we get a grip on that, well, we're pissing in the wind, aren't we? Sorry, that's a really bad analogy, but it was the only one I could think of. And as I said, I am a bit brain fried.